program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.
Well, welcome, everybody. We've got a fantastic program ahead, including the heart-gripping story of a former mob enforcer who miraculously escaped his own death contract.
Choose to change and do
growing up,
crap14 unlocked.
It's
not how you start, it's how you end, right?
The love and the acceptance of his father. However, all he ever experienced were fits of rage and rejection. And over time, that anguish drove him to seek revenge. Reporter David Kithcart reveals how his dark search led to a frightening underworld of crime and violence.
I'd walk right past the secretary, kick the door to his office, and plant both hands on his table and say, "Look into my eyes, tell me what you see." And usually they say, "I see my own funeral." And within hours they would come up with the entire amount of money because they never wanted me coming back again.
Dark search led to a frightening underworld of crime and violence.
I'd walk right past the secretary, kick the door to his office, and plant both hands on his table and say, "Look into my eyes, tell me what you see." And usually they say, "I see my own funeral." And within hours they would come up with the entire amount of money because they never wanted me coming back again.
Tom Papania relished his ability to put fear into the heart of anyone. It was his livelihood. As a debt collector for the Gambino crime family of New York City, Tom cultivated a reputation for no nonsense and no mercy. But for all of his exterior toughness, there was a part of Tom that still longed for the love and attention of his father.
The only attention I got from him is when he got drunk, he got violent. And never heard him raise his voice to my mother, never raised his hands to my mother. My mother was a prayer warrior. The typical Italian mother, when she wasn't in the kitchen cooking, she was in the bedroom praying. But he would take it out on me, and I didn't have to do anything wrong. I just had to be there. After he would beat me, he would just walk out of the room. He wouldn't say a word or anything, and he'd never come back and hug me and say, "I did this for your best interest," or "I love you," or stuff like that. I actually began hating my father because I wanted him to love me so desperately. And when he wouldn't, I began hating him.
Tom discovered a way to get back at his father when he found an old rusty gun.
I came up with an idea to pull an arm robbery. And I got two of my friends together, and I told them I knew this storefront where all these elderly Italian men were there every day. They're always dressed in suits, shirts, and ties, and there was always big fancy cars outside. And I said, they must have money. We just walked in and pulled out the gun and announced there was a holdup. Told them all to take all the money out of their pockets, put it on the tables. Told my two friends, just go around the tables, get all the money. I figured when we leave, they'd probably try to chase us and catch us. I came up with another idea, and I made them all take their pants off. And we went around and gathered all their pants, and we left the storefront with the money in their pants. Got about 3 or 4 blocks away, just dropped all the pants and got on the train, and that's when we went to Coney Island.
Tom and his friends robbed the men 2 more times until
there was a knock on the door, and my father got up and opened the door, and there was 3 men standing there. And I recognized these 3 men as being part of the men that were in that storefront. And they began speaking in Sicilian, and one of them said to my father, "We want to come in and speak with you and your son. It's very important." And my father just flew off the handle. I mean, he went into a complete rage. And he was speaking back in Italian and said, "I told you men never to ever come near my family. And I want you to leave right now." And one of the men said, "If we leave right now, your son won't be alive in the morning." We said, "It's important." And that's when this one man pointed his finger in my face, and he said, "I know it's you that's coming in there with that gun and taking our money. And the only reason you're alive is because the amount of respect I have for your grandfather." But he told me if I did it one more time, even the respect that he had for my grandfather wouldn't help me. I'd be dead.
When they left, Tom's father gave him the worst beating he'd ever received. Afterward, Tom asked him about his maternal grandfather.
And my father said all I needed to know was that he was dead. And if he ever saw me near these men again, he said he would kill me himself because these men were no good and didn't want me ever around them ever again.
The next day, Tom paid another visit to the men and demanded to know who his grandfather was.
And they told me that my grandfather was a man that his nickname was Joe the Boss. His real name was Joe Mazzaria. that he was one of the men that the FBI claims actually brought the mafia, as it's known in America. It's really called La Cosa Nostra. Brought the mafia into this country in the early 1900s. Was one of the first bosses, most powerful, violent, wealthy bosses. And when he told me that, all I heard, I've got something to get even with my father. I finally found it. This will destroy him. Because if his whole life is based on protecting me from getting involved in this, then I can just destroy his life by becoming very involved in it. Well, I told them if my father didn't want any part of this, and they wanted my father in it, and I was his only son, didn't that put me next in line, so to speak? And they said yes. And I said I want it.
Tom was now a member of the Gambino crime family. He carried out their every instruction to a T.
You know, if you got to shoot him in the arm or the leg, or stab him, or hit him with a 2x4 baseball bat, don't kill him, but hurt him in a way that he'll come up with the money. And I'd go out, and I would actually enjoy doing this because I used to fantasize that this was my father, and it was him. I was hurting. I enjoyed it.
In spite of his being disowned by his father, Tom's mother continued to pray for him.
And she said, I'm praying that you'll walk away from these men before it's too late, and that you'll seek God for protection. And I said, here's the only protection I'll ever need. This Jesus you're always talking about and always praying to, I don't know if he'll be there or not. So I don't want your Jesus for protection. I've got this gun for protection. I started to leave the room, and I said, is there anything else you're praying about me? And she said, yes, I'm praying someday you'll become a priest. And to me, that was real funny, waving this gun and everything, and becoming a priest. And I said, don't ever pray for me again. And she just balled up a little fist. She said, you can't stop me from praying. She said, those men that you're with, they've never been able to stop me from praying. And she said, and I won't stop praying until God answers these prayers.
Tom was sent on an out-of-state job to teach a lesson to some truck hijackers who were stealing from the family. After wounding the men, Tom was arrested. He was tried, convicted, and sent to prison on 2 counts of attempted murder. When he got out, he went to see the boss.
Well, I finally faced my boss in shame that I thought I had failed him. He told me that I didn't fail him. That they had arranged this for me to be arrested, to go to jail, to see if I would betray them or not. I just wanted to kill this man for what he had done to me. He had a big smile on his face, got up with open arms, and you passed my test, son. First man ever called me son. He had a book in front of him that had names of everybody who owed him large amounts of money, business owners. And he just slid the book towards me and said, take one.
Tom took 2. In a matter of moments, he was the owner of 2 discotheques. Before long, Tom went into the restaurant and construction businesses, all the time reporting only to the top bosses. When Gambino died, Paul Castellano was appointed head of the family.
I don't think God was ever on my mind. It was just money. Money was my God, power.
For a change of pace, Tom decided to move to Atlanta, Georgia. He got involved in a chain of successful restaurants and nightclubs, becoming even more prosperous. One morning, as he was surveying all of his wealth, something unexpected happened.
This voice said, yes, Tom, look at all of these things. These have been your gods. This is what you've worshipped. And you've done this all yourself, all on your own. But it's going to bring you straight to hell. And for the first time in my life, I trembled with fear. Actually trembled. Because I knew this was the voice of God. I thought God was telling me, you've lived such a lifestyle, and I'm punishing you by sending you to hell. I thought it was God who was going to send me to hell. I said, God, where were you when I was a little boy?